Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy 504 Day, wherever you are. My name is Theo Mitchell. I'm a marketing communication specialist for Tulane alumni, and we are sitting here in Studio B, and we are proud to have a chance to talk to one of New Orleans' very own artists, activists. I'm gonna call you a fashion designer. I'm gonna call you a mover, a shaker. Man, there's so many adjectives I could give you. Brandon BMike Odoms, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're a busy man. You got a lot on your plate, so we appreciate you for taking the time to just come and chat with us. So how are you doing? How's everything going?
I'm well. I appreciate you having me come and talk and the invitation to speak. So thank you.
No, absolutely. I feel like it was only right we did it this way, especially to celebrate 504 Day. And for folks who are watching at home and might not know, earlier last year before COVID, you had the chance to show off your art, at Newcomb Art Museum.
Yeah.
And it was your first time having, outside of Studio B, having your art shown in a museum setting. So I felt like it was only right this time around, especially 504 Day, we come to you and then also check out Studio B in the process and just talk about what's on your plate and what's coming up next for you.
Definitely. Yeah, that was I'm humbled and appreciative to be able to have shown work at Newcomb. That was one of the first spaces as a young person in New Orleans that I seen art. I went to a show there when I was younger, so it was serendipitous to be able to show work there. So I'm grateful for that experience.
Absolutely. Talk about full circle, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I apologize because usually I know you do a ton of interviews and they always give you that softball question before they get into the hard ones. But I'm going to flip it on you and I'm going to give you a hard one.
Definitely.
And in honor of 504 Day, what does the city of New Orleans mean to you?
Oh man, it's every time. I just recently had this experience because I was away. I went to New York and LA for a second and I just landed back 2 days ago. It's every time I land in New Orleans, it just feels like something just grabs you, and it's whether it's time, history, roots, ancestry, it's just it forms and you just feel it. And I think so when I think about New Orleans, I think about just the power of this space and what it's taught me, what it means to be an alchemist, to transform pain into beauty or sadness into happiness. I think there's so much value in this space. When you think about it, there's so many things about New Orleans that would be the opposite of celebration. We're number one on a lot of lists that wouldn't be celebrated.
That's
but
right.
Yet, that's not how we choose to define ourselves. That's not how we choose to allow others to define us either. We're alchemists. We've transformed the way those things, those outcomes are. And I think that's the things that taught me a lot as an artist in this city, about what it means to be a creative, what it means to be an alchemist. So, I feel like I always tell people I'm from the greatest city on the planet, and sometimes they think I'm joking, but I'm always serious.
No, I think I can tell you right here, and as we're celebrating 504 Day, there's no other place in the world quite like New Orleans.
Definitely.
So that means I gotta ask you, and you kept going back to that word transformation. Mm-hmm. When we're looking down the line 10 years from now, 15 years from now, even maybe 20, where do you see New Orleans down the road?
I think we've been in the midst of transitions, and I think the larger fight for a person like me is to ensure and to advocate for that whatever growth and change and brightness that the future brings, that is we're on the path for, that it doesn't come at the expense of the community that makes New Orleans special. And I think if we prioritize that task, if we make sure and ensure that the beauty of who we are is retained via the people that make it such, then I feel like New Orleans is on the road to being that magical space that we all know it is and that we celebrate. I think progress is important and progress is what's in front of us, but I think the type of progress mixed with the type of because I feel like New Orleans is always this juxtaposition between preservation and progress.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I think we're always at this dance of what do we preserve and what do we progress. Mm-hmm. And I would love to think of the future of New Orleans as being a moment where we figured it out.
Right.
Where we figured out where we progress and where we preserve. And I think once we master that, then we can fully blossom and continue to blossom into this space that from far and wide people understand the magic and people understand the value and the beauty. And so yeah, that's what I see. Sorry it took me a while to get there. But
it's all good, because you're talking about this incredible intersection that you're seeing a lot of cities across the world, especially here in the United States, trying to figure out how do you have that great marriage. And it takes figures from those respective communities to guide the way. So when we're talking specifically about the city of New Orleans, I feel like you are right there in that intersection. And with that intersection and talking more about it, using your art. You know, seeing your art in places where it's part of your brand, it's part of your message. You know, paint it where it ain't.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, being at Tulane University, and now your art's in the backdrop of classes that are being held when kids are coming back from being, you know, I guess taken away due to COVID. Or your art's now on public buses here. Your art's on billboards outside of New Orleans, in New York. You know, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. So what does it mean for you to see your art synonymous with some of these touch points as well as monuments, not only here in the city of New Orleans, but I'm just going to say worldwide?
Yeah, definitely. I would see that. I think for me, it's just art is about communication. You know, the goal is always to communicate, to say something, and to, you know, I think for me, I remember Elder told me a long time ago, he said, we got
we'll edit that one out.
Elder told me a long time ago, he said, as long as you listen to the needs of the community, you never run out of things to say or things to do. And so for me, I feel like all these opportunities to communicate and opportunities to just to have this dialogue, this call and response. And so if a piece shows up at a certain space, it's an opportunity to have that call and response with that space and see how it then informs and grows, whether it's my voice or whether it's the voice of the community present. And so I'm conscious of like being as a part of like that choir, you know what I mean? And so everywhere that I'm blessed to have work is an opportunity to engage and have those conversations. So, you know, I was just in New York just visiting, and I was able to see some, you know, some of the new billboards that was out there with some of my work on it. And it was just cool just to see it in these different environments and how that then forces a certain type of response that's specific to that space.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I think that's one of the beautiful things about public art is that you can't typically change the context. Like the context is sort of married into the process of making it. If I paint a mural on a building, I have to understand directly the context of where it exists. And so that's always like a part of the process that I'm excited about. So every opportunity to create different spaces is an opportunity to rethink that context.
I'm putting you on the spot here, and I apologize for the next question. Do you have a personal favorite project of yours that you're just like, oh, this is my baby, this will always be my number one?
Always be. It's an R&B song.
Yeah.
This is my baby, you'll always be my number one.
Number one on the charts, number one in your hearts.
He's got a future. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think for me, that project was, and is still in my brain, was Exhibit B, the project here in New Orleans that took place prior to this one. That was the one that sort of crystallized the why for me. You know what I mean? We talk about like how you create versus why you create. At least that's really important for me, especially when I'm talking to students. You know, you spend a lot of time in institutions of learning, figuring out how to do the thing. You know what I mean? Especially as a creative and artist, you know, these moments of like, okay, this is how you use color, this is how you use composition, this is how you use blah, 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 whatever. But then you reach a point, and all those things are very valuable, right. Those lessons, those ideas, but then you reach a point where you transition into why you do it. You know, you kind of like, okay, I get the how, and then you get to this point where you're like, oh, this is why I do it. So for me, Exhibit B is always going to be an important project, because that's when I sort of made that transition from the how to the why. It's like, okay, I figured out how to do it. Right. I kind of understand how to use spray paint now. I kind of understand how I choose to approach a wall. But that was a project that crystallized, okay, this is why I want to do it. This is why I need to do it. This is why I'm supposed to do it. And so that forever would be an important chapter or benchmark or just bookmark in my journey as an artist.
Well, I gotta tell you, for starters, just being a fan of art, thank you, because even sitting in this space, which I think is almost like that next chapter in the book that you're writing. You know, Studio B is an incredible space. If you haven't seen it, This has to be a top tier, must see priority destination for you.
Thank you.
You have to. No, they got to know. The people got to know. You got to come here. So before you go to Bourbon Street, come right here.
Definitely before.
Before, please.
Because after it might be a different vibe.
Right. We can't help you. But it started with Exhibit B, and now we're here, Studio B. Can we talk more about this wonderful space? We're surrounded by incredible artwork, messages. What does it mean to you to just have a dedicated space where you can own your skills and literally inspire the next generation?
I mean, yeah, this space is definitely a product of love and a result of alchemy. You know what I mean? When we got in here, it was empty. It was, a warehouse that hadn't been used for a while. And the initial goal was to make this 6-month pop-up where we would invite people to experience the space for 6 months. It was my first time creating a body of work that, so it forced me to sort of like really think about all the things I wanted to say. But then 6 months turned into 5 years. We've been open 5 years now. And so it's been an amazing journey of just seeing the space change organically, seeing the different conversations of all the different beautiful people who come through the space and what they add to the space, what they take from the space. All those things have been important to the journey of when you walk into this day and what you feel when you walk in. Obviously, on a day like this, you feel the heat, but beyond the heat, we hope that there is a certain type of light that can be, part of this experience. Because the work itself speaks to not just the moment that we're in, but hopefully at its best, it speaks to where we can go, and where we should be as a collective.
Right.
So I mean, the art speaks for itself, hopefully, so it doesn't require me to say much, but I would hope that as one experiences the space, that they are tuned in and listen, you know what I mean?
When somebody walks into a space like this, which is extremely powerful, and I mean, it hits you. It hits you in all the right places. It might hit you in some of the wrong places, depending on how you're feeling that day.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. But what I'm curious to know, and what I've been observing with your art, is that there's always something to take away from it, and there's always something that you can learn. You can say that with any piece of art, really. But when you create your art, is that the end goal, or is that just something that's a part of the process, and then hopefully whoever takes in your art, they can go back to their respective space and do their homework? So I guess, or is it a hybrid of both?
It's definitely all of the above. I think there's a part of it that is directly about communicating to the audience. You know, we do a ton of school tours here where it is directly about who is Fannie Lou Hamer, who is Paul Robeson, or what happened, why are these walls shot into, what is this about in terms of this moment in New Orleans history. So there's those things. I mean, at its best, everything is layered. There's a direct line of communication that I hope to accomplish, and then there's some things that aren't as obvious in terms of what's being said.
Right.
And then there's other things where the viewer, the audience, inserts a meaning into something that I didn't even see. Where they'll be like, I see this, and this is what it speaks to me, and then that's always beautiful as well, because it's like, oh, I didn't even think about that, but I'm excited and open to the idea that this does this for you. So I mean, I think all great art, all art in general, at least visual art especially, has this ability to be layered, or it's almost even the success of it is based off how layered it is and how many people can see different things. And that's one of the things that makes me excited about being a visual artist, is that I know within those layers there's multiple entry points for people. And so a space like this, in my opinion, I think has multiple entry points in terms of, like you said, who you are and what you bring to the space. Students bring something. I mean, when kids walk in as young as kindergartners, you know, they bring something into the space. And then when elders walk in, who've seen a lot more than I have, they bring in something to the space as well. So it's definitely like a layered experience, I would hope.
Now, you said Studio B has been here for 5 years. Every time I come here, there's always something in progress that gets me excited about what's next.
Definitely.
So I don't know if you can share it with the audience, but if you can, then that would be awesome.
Yeah,
but what's coming up next for Studio B?
I mean, depending on when this airs, I think there's a bunch of things for the space itself. I mean, we're rethinking a transition that lends itself to the idea of what does this space look like in a semi-permanence. You know what I mean? We've been always thinking about this space as a transitional space, as something that was meant to be here for a short amount of time.
Right.
But now we've been thinking about, okay, what does this look like as a space that could be here for a whole lot longer? And what is the function of that? Like, what does it serve? And so the result of that, I think, will be really interesting for folks to see. And as well as for me as an artist in the city of New Orleans, there's a bunch of projects, public projects that'll be happening, some mural projects that'll be starting this summer that we're excited about. This will be our 9th year doing a summer camp here, a summer session. So not physically here, but we've been doing it for 9 summers in a row. So this will be our 9th summer doing summer session, so that's exciting. We're excited to see what the youth are going to create, how that adds to the space. So yeah, so there's always a bunch of, we try to keep it elastic in here and keep it flowing,
No, well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
There's so much that this place offers.
Yeah.
And it's always changing. So, folks, once again, Studio B, top tier, must see, priority destination.
Top tier.
Destination. Let me make sure I get that. Top tier.
Definitely.
I gave you a lot of hard questions. I promise you these next ones are going to be a lot
Yeah,
more
it's
softball pitch. But this has been an incredibly tough year for a lot of us. The pandemic, social justice issues, everything that's been thrown at us as a collective society, as a collective whole, has definitely been a gut punch, one way or the other. So one thing that I like to always ask folks when we get a chance to interview them or have a great conversation is, how do you stay motivated and inspired to push through despite everything that's happening externally and out there? How do you cut through the noise?
Yeah, I think it's important to think about like the function of for me personally, I think about the function of art. Toni Morrison, she said something to the effect that these are the times that artists go to work. I think there is a part of that idea of like, okay, what does that mean? Like, what is the function? What is my function in this moment? And I think as a reflection of what's happening, Nina Simone said it's an artist's duty to reflect the times. And I think there is a part of being a creative that is about being a reflection, that is about saying, okay, I'm going to interpret what's happening as a visual creative or as a visual interpreter. But then there's another part of it that is about being hopeful about what you don't see, about seeing beyond what's in front of you. And I think that's something that I've been really finding a lot of peace and solace in, the idea of like allowing my imagination to see beyond what's in front of us and challenging a reality of what we want to see. You know what I mean? There's a whole new show in the space called Radical Freedom Dream, where the whole idea was about, stretching this radical imagination into what is the world we want to create. We know what we're against. We can articulate very clearly the things we're against.
Right.
But what are we for? What are we fighting for? What are we fighting to create? What do we hope to build? And I think, so for a lot of ways, that gives me peace. Just the exercise of thinking, okay, at its best, what is the result of this moment? You know what I mean? Like, what do we hope to be on the other side? As a community, as a culture, as a space, as living beings, what do we hope to be on the other side? Right. And that's what gives me focus and just motivation in this moment,
Now, you have a lot of great things coming up, some that folks know about, like your work with the Know Your Rights Camp, your work with Ben and Jerry's on the local level. Your work
ice cream.
There you get that ice cream, please, please. As well as your work on a local level with the New Orleans Pelicans and their collaboration with Red Bull and Jordan Brand, Jumpman Brand. So if folks want to follow your journey, follow you on social media, and support what you're doing here with Studio B, your team Project B, where can they go? How can they follow you?
There's a bunch of ways we should consolidate them, but you can go to my personal website, which is easy, it's BMike.com. On all social media, I'm BMike, number 2, the letter C, BMike 2C. As well as Studio B has a website, studiobnola.com, and you can follow everything that's going on there, support the gift shop, the Be Light Collective, which is the youth that we work with. So yeah, it's a lot of ways people can stay in touch and keep focused on what we got going on,
Absolutely. Well, BMike, I want to thank you so much for your time. Happy
Appreciate
504
it.
Day to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Same to you.
Thank you. Happy 504 Day to you. Thank you so much for joining us, tapping in, and learning more about BMike, about the space here, Studio B. Make sure you check it out next time you come to New Orleans. Wherever you are, continue to stay safe, take care. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.